Greetings everyone. Today we're going to explore evaluating expressions. I do have a note sheets for you today, so if you could get that out, make sure you pause the video when needed. And if you don't have the note sheet, not a big deal, you can jot this down in your own notebook. First, let's just jot down 2 steps to evaluate. The first step, you're going to substitute in the number value for the variable. Substitute in the numerical value for the variable. That means if I tell you x is 7, wherever there's an x, we're going to put a 7. We're going to replace it, is another word for substitute. Step 2, which is from our previous lesson, we're going to use the acronym PEMDAS to help us simplify. Meaning we want to get it down to a single number answer. Pause the video here if needed. All right, if you're writing in your own notebook, make sure you pause and then continue. If you're following along on the notes, let's get going. First thing first, wherever there's a number or a symbol, we're going to keep it. Wherever there's a letter, we're going to replace it. So instead of y, what should I replace it with? Well, it says 7, so I'm going to put a 7. But that looks kind of funny, doesn't it? It looks like a 27, and that's not what that means. When values are next to each other, it means multiply, right? Technically, there's a little dot here that we didn't have typed. So I'm going to write a little dot so I don't forget. Next, I see the variable x. I don't want an x, though. I need to replace it with a 2. That's the only new thing in this lesson. We replace the letters with numbers. Now, what's old news is we want to simplify using PEMDAS. Remember, sometimes it's helpful to have it written off to the side. That's up to you. I don't have any parentheses, no exponents. I do have a multiplication, so I'm going to multiply and get to 14 and drop down the -2. And my last step is whatever's left over. In this case, 14 minus 2 is 12. Remember, if you need help with the PEMDAS rules, that means we need to go back to the previous lesson and work on that instruction. All right, same thing, example number 2. I'm going to rewrite all the numbers and symbols. Now, because I know technically there's dots here, I'm going to start filling in those dots. Again, instead of y, I'm going to write 7. Instead of x, I'm going to write 2. Now we're going to follow our PEMDAS rules. I have no parentheses. I have no exponents. Multiply and divide left to right. So the first thing I see on the left is 2 times 7. Everything else falls down. Next, I see this multiplying. 5 times 2, 10. Everything else falls down. Next, I need to add or subtract from left to right. The first adding or subtracting I see, 14 plus 10. The -3 falls down. And my last step, 24 minus 3 is 21. Again, the only part that's new is this first line. If you are struggling with the rest, you need to revisit the previous video. All right, example 3 on your notes sheet. I'm going to write down all the numbers and symbols. Instead of x, I'm going to replace a 5. Instead of y, I'm going to replace it with a 2. That's the only new piece. Let's go through PEMDAS. There's no parentheses, but I do have exponents. 5 squared means 5 times 5. Remember that means I have 2 5s, so I've got 25. And I can take care of this one. 2 squared means 2 times 2, which is 4. Everything else falls down. Next, any multiplying or dividing from left to right. Let's see, I have one division here. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Everything else falls down. Notice how I always underline. That helps me remember what falls down. If it's not underlined, it falls past the line. And lastly, I need to add or subtract left to right. So the first addition is going to be 25 plus 5, which is 30. The minus 3 falls down. And my last operation gets me to 27. Again, if you need to catch up, make sure to pause this video, consider jotting everything down, and then re-listening. Example 4. First, I'm going to write everything for numbers and symbols down. That XY means there should be a dot here. All right, let's start replacing. Instead of X, this one says to change all the X's to 5s. And this example says to change all the Y's to 2s. So where did that 5 and 2 come from? I made them up, okay? I have to give you that information. Just know that the numbers are going to change. I'm going to pick numbers that work well together, so pay attention to the directions. Let's go through PEMDAS. I do have parentheses. All right, let's take care of the first set of parentheses. It says 5 times 2. That's 10. The second set of parentheses says 5 times 2, and that's 10. Alrighty, everything else falls down. Next step, exponents. I do have exponents. I have a 10 times 10, right? That's 10 squared. 10 times 10 is 100. Everything else falls down. Multiply or divide? Yep. 100 divided by 10 is 10. I didn't even get to add or subtract because I didn't have any, so that's my final answer. All right, example 5. Look at how that X and Y value changed. That's okay. Let's jot down every number and symbol. All right, let's start off with replacing all the X's with 3's and all the Y's with 4. That's the only new step today. Let's work our way through PEMDAS. Parentheses, none. Exponents, yes. 3 squared is 3 times 3. 4 squared means 4 times 4. You are welcome to use your calculator if you need support in remembering that. Just know that if you type this into your calculator like this, you're not going to get the right answer. So you need to do piece by piece, just like we're doing. All right, everything else falls down. Next step says multiply or divide, left to right. Okay, I'm reading left to right, and the first thing I encounter is 2 times 3. I'm going to drop that down. That's a 6. And if I keep reading, I can take care of the 16 divided by 6, which is 1. I can do that because look at what falls down, the 9, the plus, and the minus sign. All right, next I have add or subtract left to right. Let's go left to right. 9 plus 6 is 15. The minus 1 falls down. And my last step, 15 minus 1 is 14. Again, if you are struggling with the bottom part of that, simplify and use PEMDAS, see the previous lesson. Let's take a look at example 6. Keep the symbols and the numbers. Replace the X's with 3's. Replace the Y's with 4's. Parentheses first. I do have parentheses. I have a 3 plus 4, which is 7. Everything else falls down. Exponents, yup. 7 squared means 7 times 7, and that is 49. That's it. I didn't even need the rest of the rules. Example 7. The only difference on these ones is there's 3 letters, but the rules are the same. Write all the symbols and numbers. In this case, we're going to replace every C with a 3. We're going to replace every letter D with a 6. And we're going to replace every E with a 7. That's the only little extra piece. Let's work our way through PEMDAS. Parentheses first. Yup, 7 minus 3 is in parentheses, so that's going to become a 4. Everything else falls down. Next is exponents. Nope, none of those. Next is multiply or divide. I do. Now you'll notice it says 6 parentheses 4. Parentheses like that are the same as a dot. So let me show you. You could rewrite this as 3 plus 6 dot 4. See how that means the same thing? That means I have multiplying. So let's take care of that. 6 times 4 is 24. And the 3 plus falls down. Okay, let me erase this as to not confuse you. Last step, well, there's only one piece of adding left, which gets us to 27. All right, let's look at the last example on our notes sheet. The only difference on this one is there's a fraction bar. That's okay. That's still a symbol. We want to write every number and symbol. Next, let's replace. Instead of C, we're going to write 3. And instead of D, we're going to write 6. So in this case, I didn't even use the E, and that's okay. I don't need it if it's not asked for. Let's follow PEMDAS. Now remember, this one's special. When we have a big fraction bar, we take care of the top as a problem and the bottom as a problem. So what that means is I'm going to keep the bar and the 3, and I'm going to take care of the top first. The top, 3 plus 6 becomes 9. So this is one of those special cases where I'm actually going to do the division last. 9 divided by 3 is a final answer of 3. So keep an eye out for those fraction ones. Treat them like separate problems. The top is a problem, the bottom's a problem. And then don't divide till the very, very end. As always, make sure to check Google Classroom for any instructions, to know what your practice is. If you have questions, make sure to ask either me, the teacher in the room, in the Sabre Center, or any other resources you have. Until next time, have a good one.